people, you should not have a false job. You should not have false health examinations, you know. It doesn't make sense that anybody would really want anything that's false. So it makes sense that God would say to us, why would you want false gods? It makes no sense, guys. Thou shalt not. And it's put in this heavy tone. You better not or else. It really means I wouldn't recommend it. That's really what, God, and you take away that heavy-handed, thou shalt not, and turn it into, I wouldn't really recommend it. More casual God. I wouldn't recommend it. Why would you? It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. But the false gods spoken of are not referring exclusively to golden calves and so forth of thousands of years ago. It's referring to things that you believe have power over you. The only thing that can have power over that which is created would be the Creator. And we're made in God's image, which means the only thing that can have power over our creations is their creator, which is us. That's why people in positive thinking and so forth make statements like that say, you're in charge of your own life. And people think that that's just some sort of a, weekend seminar on empowerment kind of a statement. Yes, I am empowered. That makes no sense. You can't just say it. You have to believe it. And to believe it, you have to get it. Otherwise, you're not quite believing, you're just reciting. I really am involved with my creation. Geppetto created Pinocchio. Stories, mythologies, fables. There's stories of something created something else. Then it's its father, Pinocchio's dad. That won't change. But we're not just biological creations, because that's just part of the dream, part of the illusion. We are powerful spiritual beings that think we're in pain if our shoelaces are too tight, or the checkbook doesn't have extra zeros after each digit. Nothing actually can have power over us. To believe that it can is not like a naughty karma kind of a statement. To believe that anything can have power over us is actually a form of psychosis. Because there is nothing else that could have power. Now that's a little out there for some, but there is nothing else. Life is but a dream, and we're the dreamers of the dream. I have mine, and we have ours. You have yours, and we have ours. All of creation that we know of in the third dimensional universe is a manifestation of my belief systems and ours. Yours and ours, and yours and ours. See, it's a co-creation. It comes from me as an individual and from us as a collective. So when someone wakes up and says, I think I believe this now. I get it. And they go, today I want to see 3 moons instead of 1. It didn't change. And you go, well, maybe it's not true. And then we lose faith, and then we no longer believe we're creators. Why didn't it change? Because you forgot to convince us to put up 3 moons. So when we want to change the world, and today's a very auspicious day to talk about this, I guess. I didn't know I was going to say all this. It just happens. But, but it's like this concept of creation. I might want to make a change, but if I want to make a change that we will all experience, to a degree, I have to convince us that that's the new reality. And that's why some of the collective imagery is really slow to happen, because we have to say it once, and then again, and again, and gradually people get used to hearing it. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand, they tried to kill him for that statement when he's starting his ministry in Judea. But, it's taking some time. But now I could go into most New Thought churches for sure and say the kingdom of heaven is at hand. You can go into any Eastern-ish thought system temple or site, and it's kind of like, well, yeah. Now all of a sudden it's like, no problem. Yeah, we got that. But somebody almost got killed for saying that 2,000 years ago. Then it comes to, racism and people, rearing up and killing people over that. And then it's becoming sort of like, well, obviously. So to convince the masses takes a bit more time. But rather than sit around and wait for that to happen, we can individually step up and own it for us. I know this. I don't have to go, is it okay if I know this? No, it's not. Okay, I'm sorry. And the masses aren't ready. I just know. Family, no, get behind me, Satan. Then friends, no, get behind me. You just keep owning it. It might look like you're a minority figure when you have belief systems that are a little different, but that's only until they catch up. I've made many statements where science would absolutely say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and then it ends up being science 10 years later. Oh, well, of course, we've always known that. No, you didn't. I have letters from you that told me that I was nuts. So it takes time. But on a personal level, you could also be talking to somebody saying, you might want to look into some recovery work. Oh, man, I don't need that. A few years later, they're sponsors. They've gone through it. They've lived it. They're working it. You see, it takes time. But it doesn't help us to think of the world or people or the race as troubled and needing help. It's better to hold a vision of them as holy and then giving them the support needed to get to the holiness, rather than problematic that needs fixed. Because then what you're doing is you're sort of putting power into the problem. And then if you do anything constructive at all, it's the mechanics of fixing the problem. And what the ego will do is convince you that even if you change one minor part of your life, there's so many more parts that need done. So that you'll feel overwhelmed, disheartened, hopeless, helpless, and having to reincarnate and do it again and again. The ego doesn't really like people to know the truth of who they are and focus on that as their goal. This is a great and auspicious time to be talking about things like new beginnings. This is it. The new beginnings, really, it's an illusion. We're just remembering who we are. It looks like progress, and it is sort of progress, but it's progress back into who we really are. Mostly things that I teach today, I've taught forever. I mean, I've always known what I'm teaching. Most of it. I'm sure that in high school, I can remember talking to people about spirituality. And I think that there was certainly an open-mindedness to new thought traditions. And it was cool. I loved it. Anything spiritual, I ate it up. But I know that there was a little bit more tradition in me somewhere. I know it must have shown up in pieces here and there. Or things that I wasn't familiar with. I wouldn't diss them. I would ask. It was new to me. So my approach to spirituality, even as a kid, was, really? Tell me more about that. It was usually not, no way. When A Course in Miracles came along in the 70s, people were talking about, oh man, there's this book and people have been known to throw it out their window and people have been known to react and throw it in the trash can. I didn't have that. I'm always like, really? Wow, that's cool. But there was a moment I had with the Course where I'm like, wow, man, this is saying everything's an illusion. Now, I'm by the time I'm 20 even, I'm studying healing arts, acupressure, and all these, and it's telling me it's all an illusion. There was a moment where inside I felt this twinge of, really? Because I knew it was true, what it was saying. I knew that I'm not right and it's wrong. I knew that the teaching coming through it was Christ consciousness. So I knew that if one of us has to be flawed here, it must be me. Flawed in the sense that my belief system was limited. And I'm like, okay, this is not feeling easy, but I'm cool with it, but it's hitting something. So I can hear Christ downloading, well, Michael, what you might want to do for now is reconcile the two. It's an illusion, but ... and fill it in however you like. See, that's how patient God is with us. If you're not totally ready to say it's an illusion, if you still need to make a living doing body work, Michael, it might not work to advertise. Come see me, but it's all an illusion. Come and see me for some worthless healing that has no value whatsoever on your body that isn't there. That wouldn't have worked. So God's like, hey, it's all right. just work it in a little bit and reconcile the two. But as a healer, the greatest healer capacity is to still be able to do the body work, still recommend 12-step programs, but know the truth about it all, that you can't be sick. See, I thought I needed to still deal with sickness, and I didn't know how to reconcile it with the fact that you don't even have a body. So what happens is God says, you know what, sweetheart? Hold it in here silently. It's our little secret that the people that approach you, including yourself, are holy beings that can never be ill or lack in any way. And yet, you're so infinitely patient, like the Divine Mother is, that you'll still rub a shoulder, you'll still adjust a hip, you'll still take some herbs for such and such, and it's like, oh, well, I can do that. That feels good. But at first, I was trying to get spirituality to fit into that model. And now I'm understanding, no, spirit first, and let the physical, your temporary life, let it try to fit the spiritual. You see the difference? So I kind of, had to do a little flip-flop there. But when it comes to new beginnings, you can't have new beginnings if you've made no room for it. I mean, it's as simple as that. Whatever you're trying to do. You're trying to aerate soil, you got to make some room. You're trying to, learn love and forgiveness, learn to give some things up. Tithing is about giving things up. It's about a demonstration. It's not really about money. It's about a demonstration of belief system. I can afford. Look at this here. I can afford. So we learn to change our belief systems, but if you try to bring in, I think I like this new thought. I think I like spirituality. I'm going to bring that on now. Be careful, because if you've made no room for it, it will not stick. And you're going to end up making harder work for yourself. I pray and I meditate. Doesn't seem to be working. Have you made room for what you're praying for? Have you made room in consciousness in your meditations? I've forgiven that person 10 times. Really? Did you make room for the forgiveness to set in? Or was it just a head thing? Which, we sometimes call, just surface level healing, right? Bypassing instead of really letting things set in. So we all want to change our lives, but we have issues about changing it. Even though we say we want change, we have issues about changing the world, about changing our lives. Now, you may not know where the issues are, but it's good to do an inventory. We have a workshop this afternoon, co-creating, consciously, meaning you're participating, consciously, co-creating, meaning God's involved, a new life, a new life. The title itself is very deep and explanatory. Consciously, I'm ready to consciously be a participant in my life and not control trips. Like some people will say, you need to take control of your life and and that's just ego again. If there's no God involved, something's in control. And it isn't God, then it's ego. So I know how people inflate that and, you have to. Learn to say, no, I think I've been in charge long enough. I think I'm ready to kind of open my mind and say, what's it been, 1,000,000 years, 1 billion years? How long have we been in creation? Even if it's only 1,000, that's a long time to be messed up. Maybe I should think about, I don't know, living dangerously, call me silly, but maybe we just go, you know what, I've tried this on my own long enough. Let me try another approach. God, you help guide me. You see? I mean, why not? Even if you say, that sounds religious, your stuff isn't working. To do what? To make more money? That's the external. What we're really looking for, believe it or not, is the presence of God, to feel the presence. What does that look like? Peace. Believe it or not, peace. More than stuff, poof. That's why A Course in Miracles, which is a teaching of Christ consciousness, says, this course is not going to change your life. What book does that? Buy this now. It will definitely never change anything in your life. Who would try that advertisement? But what it says is, it'll change the way you feel about your life. Good drugs will do that. Granted, Good drugs are going to cost me more than a $25 or $35 Course in Miracles, but it's a lot more fun for some of us, right? So why would you invest in a book that's going to only change the way you feel? What it means is it's going to change your consciousness, not your outer life. But when you change your consciousness, it'll change your outer life. But it won't go that far to say that because it doesn't want you going, okay, so I'll pretend to change the inside because I still want the outer. It's saying, please, you're so addicted to false idols, things that you think are going to sedate you properly or stimulate you properly. And neither can do anything for you because they're outside of you and there isn't anything outside that has power over you. That's what it's really saying. It's saying, change this. Learn to feel more peace. And what will happen is there's this wall around you. When you feel more peace, you start to trust people more and you start to create more trustworthy partnerships. When you feel more peace, you tend to have your barriers go down and money can leak through more. Everything outside will change. Along with that will also come some tests now and again. It doesn't just mean you go, and then ka-ching, it just happens. It's like, here comes some peace. I feel it. Wow, this is great. Ego throws something up there like a strained relationship. It's that you work through. Then comes the benefits. The benefits don't just come from peace most of the time. It usually comes from peace, you dealing with that in you that is not peaceful, then comes the benefit. So while we're on earth, there's still work instead of just, I feel it, I get it. I feel it, and I get it. I feel it, and I receive it. You see? That's how it can be in our holiness. I know, I feel, I receive. It's just a done deal. It's beautiful. On earth, it goes from I know it, I feel it, I receive it, to I know it, I'm feeling it, there's stuff in the way, got to work it, and then receive it. There's that little extra layer. And that's the stuff that has to be healed. It's our belief systems, and it's fine. Some of us don't want change like we think we do. Some of us are afraid of change in general, right? Some of us have the issue of, well, this is familiar to me. There are people that will not leave a relationship as strained as it is, as hurtful as it is, because it's familiar. Some of us have had family that, I remember as a kid, a young adult, I remember going over to my family's house, regularly. I lived somewhat close. As an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, I'd still go over there. They didn't even like me. Why was I going over there? It was habit. It was familiar. How weird. How weird that. What are you thinking? I don't know. I guess I wasn't. I was going on a pattern, a program. Oh, look, it's time for some abuse. Drive over to mom and dad's house. What are you doing? What do you want? I don't know, just to be abused. Let me breathe it in. Wow, I'll be back tomorrow. Why would anybody in their right mind do that? Nobody would. You're not in your right mind when you run from old, limited, or hurtful programs. But it's familiar. If I don't go over there for some abuse, where am I going to get my abuse? This is so familiar. I should be thankful that they're there for me each day that I want to go for some more abuse. It's silly. But you know how it is that when you have your first Christmas after divorcing somebody that was hurtful or saying goodbye to your family if they were hurtful, you know how it is. There's a part of you that's like, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. And there's another part that's like, wow, who's going to eat all that turkey or whatever you people eat, right? There is that, there is that moment. They were nuts, they were crazy, they were hurtful, but you know what's happening now in my house? Hello. Happy Thanksgiving, giving. Well, this is fun. That's what happens. There's a part of you called the ego that's going to go, now, did you really want healthiness that badly? There's nobody around. Look how lonely you are. Look at you. Oh, leftovers. I guess I'll have those by myself tomorrow. The ego is going to accentuate all the misery of aloneness. And God in the meantime is like, just waiting for you to call upon it. I don't have time because I'm so lonely. I'm just so commiserating. I can't call upon God. I need some misery. At some point, you can say, wait, the word alone, if broken, is all one. So I'm really self-contained. Wait, oh my God, this is kind of cool. It's time to play some music, and then nobody's in the house. And you get to play it a little louder. And you can do Chuck Berry, impersonations, You can just the little, you can do his duck walk, as he, naked, and nobody knows, nobody cares. You're just like, this is so cool, right? It's just like freedom. But if you want to commiserate, none of these ideas will come to you. What else could I be doing? But I would like to be around people. Go to the store and hand out some money to people that don't have any. Or just go and say, happy holidays, Merry Christmas or whatever. I went to a place the other day and they were open. In Sedona, it's hard to find anything open after 5. But on a holiday, they close at 3 if they were even open. You know what? I tipped the servers there. I tipped them. Why? Because they were open. I want you to know that I appreciate that you're here. Make a statement. Make a really valuable statement. And you might go, well, okay, but how much is that going to do? You have no idea. You go out of your house and you have the intention to make a difference today. You ask to be taken to the right people today, and you have no idea what person that you're going to, you can only afford $5. Give $5. Shake things up. Everybody's in this trance of fear and negativity, and you showed up and you brought something different to the world today. This is not just about my new year. I made a difference in your life, which means it could be July 2nd, and I'm still making a difference and creating a new year for you. You want a new life? Bring a new life to others, and it's more guaranteed than if you try to conjure up your own version of a new life. People very much underestimate the value of service. It's hard to be miserable when you make people smile. It really is. It really is. You can even just donate time in an animal shelter. And you could just call it good karma, because it is. But it's really hard to go home miserable when you've saved an animal's life. And when it looks at you that way and thank you, it's hard to do. And when you watch things, you can turn on the news because it's familiar. Let me see what I have to be miserable about today. What should I fear today? Oh, I didn't know that. I'm going to start worrying about that. You could do that. You could also put on videos on YouTube that show you the way animals responded when they were gotten out of captivity. It's amazing. Cows that start hopping. Cows, they're usually just, right? Not a lot of affect, right? And you see these things like, oh my God, how can you be miserable when you see animals happy? When they show you animals that are brought back to owners that rescued them, a year later, 5 years later, and the animal's it's a lion, usually it would just take your head off, and it's like little baby to you. And it's hard to just go, oh, I'm glad to be watching this video. Oh, I have nothing to live for. It's service. One thing people don't realize when they struggle to be in this life and they struggle to create new beginnings is when their root chakra is weak. What does root chakra have to do with happiness and being alive? It's very simple. If your root chakra is unplugged, you have no purpose here. You're not here. You're not anchored. That's what it is. You drift like a boat without an anchor. When you plug in your root chakra, and one of the most underestimated qualities of nurturing root chakra is service. Because it makes you want to be here when you've done good for people. You see the happiness. You could have a lot of defenses and still not let it in much, but you keep doing it and it starts to filter in. The root chakra gets plugged in because you feel valuable here. When you feel valuable, you start to show up more. Showing up more anchors in that root chakra. So if you feel you've done a lot of work to create a new life and you just don't feel like it's getting in, whether it's healing or whether it's prosperity, whatever category or all the above, and it doesn't feel like it's setting in somehow, think about these ideas. Is it because it's not familiar to you, the good? Is it, do I have fears of change? You can track it and look at, what might be behind this? Remember the value of hypothetical. If you say, what is it, and you think too linearly, you'll put up defenses. When you do like a child and say, let's make believe, if I did have defenses, I wonder what they might be. And it slips in under the radar a little more easily. It really does. You also might find that you're not working enough at clearing out the past or wounds. You might need some hypnotherapy or some tracking, working with chaplains or whatever else, breath work, clearing out. So if I'm not filling up with the new, it's not setting in, I might need to look at, maybe I'm not doing deep progressive work on the old. If I start planting things in a garden and they keep not growing, it's not the seeds. Usually it's not going to be the seeds. It could be the new that you're not doing properly. But I would question, did I till the soil? Are there too many weeds in the garden? Is there no soil? Maybe you need to put some soil, maybe some nutrients, right? The old has to be addressed, especially if it's choking out the new. So if you're not seeing the new coming into your life, sit and honestly assess. Is there something from the past that's still choking? Is there unhealed wounds that's choking out my good? Which sort of also it overlaps with, did I take time where I'm investing in the past? In other words, there's part of me that might still think that the past serves me. An example would be a person who goes through a really challenging divorce and then they don't have any money. They struggle, no offense if this applies to you, but we can struggle sometimes after a divorce. And you know what's interesting? It's weird because our ex wins the lottery. They marry into wealth with somebody else, usually hotter and younger than you. And you're just sitting there, I'm doing my mantras. I'm decreeing, I'm affirming, my good is here now, and yet your checkbook, the balance is dwindling and they're like, and they bought the great new car, they come by to get the kids in a Rolls Royce and you're like, okay, great. Of course that hurts, but what we often do not own honestly is there's a part of us that still thinks the past is of value. For example, I don't want that person to get past what they did to me. So the more miserable I remain, the more I'm going to remind them what they did to me. Covertly, you could be living miserably to make other people feel bad about having done things to you. You could have sickness to demonstrate to other people. The way A Course in Miracles words it, I'm sort of paraphrasing, look what you've done to me. My life would be together if it weren't for you. And that's when we really get into sickness, because we're not just sort of doing stuff to ourselves, abusing ourselves. We're allowing stuff like that from the past to continue having an effect over us. It's not as easy as it sounds to get past that because you think that there's a value in it. I will not let them get off the hook with me. I need to show them that I'm struggling and they contributed to that. I'm not going to let them off the hook because then it makes it seem like what they did to me is okay. You have all these reasons. And the question then is how strange this is, because forgiveness partly means simply not condoning what they did. It means I think I'm going to let go of the power I thought it had over me. And that's why it gets really scary, really challenging to realize one day I will actually, when I ask for prosperity in my life, I can't ask for it, ultimately, I can't ask for it without wishing it upon those who have taken it from me. Ooh, that's like, oh, never mind. I'm not going to go there. I don't mind decreeing prosperity for me, but you think I'm going to include them? You don't know what they've done. See, and there's all that. And I'm with you. I'm with you. So don't do it. Stay broke. Stay upset for now. One day, it's going to come to you. You can wait 5 more lifetimes. I don't advise it, but if you want to sit with me, I'll still lead you that direction, but I will not undervalue what you're feeling. I'm going to hear what you're saying. But you know what they did to me? I've done things like this, where somebody says, but you don't know what and I feel so much rage inside, but I can't let the rage out. Nobody wants to. I say, choke me, come here. Grab me by the neck and start choking. Get it out of your system. I've literally had people pound on my chest. Get it out. Instead of, oh, you shouldn't be thinking like that. Oh, okay. Now I feel so much better. No, I've said, here, come here. Use boom, 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 pound. Take my fist, squeeze it as hard as you can. Cuss, yell, puke, do what you need to do. I've done all that with people. I've done it all with people. If you've ever had children, you're fine with people puking on you, So I'm like, get it out. Guys, do you understand the love that it takes to say, instead of dissing what you're feeling, to say, I get it, but you haven't let it out. Go ahead, let some of that, and the tears that come after that, that nobody has allowed them. Bam! And what usually happens is the explosion of anger, then comes the grief. I love that. It's so real, in the psychological sense. It's so, wow, it's so vulnerable. And then often they realize, oh, there's peace. Where did that come from? It was there all along. But you put a pressure cooker over it, you lit the fire and got the water boiling. And that became your new reality. Now what we did was we put out the fire, we opened the lid, here comes the rage and all that, and the steam, the droplets, the tears. And now all that pressure, all that, shaking on the pressure cooker, and all the valves are starting to blow like in so many different movies. It all suddenly is calming down. And there's the person saying, oh my God, thank you. That's just beautiful. They've now made room. Now, what you don't want to do, if that's you in your life or you're helping others, is say, well, thank you, bye-bye. What you did was you blew it all out, but you didn't replace it. Remember to replace it. What would you like instead of a pressure cooker emotionally and all that? Peace, I'm feeling peace. Great, now you have a pot of peace. What would you like to put in there to make your little broth or stew or whatever? What would you like? Oh, I would like an iron-rich broth today. Great. So let's put some ingredients in that peace so that the peace starts manifesting as goodness in your life, literally manifesting. Peace is a tranquil thing. It doesn't have to manifest. It's a feeling. But what would you like it to look like in your life? Well, better friends. Well, let's go. And that's where we start using co-creative mind to say, with your love, God, I see that I'm deserving of better friendships. Instead of people that turn on you constantly, right? That throw you under the bus or whatever else. So that's what co-creating is about. I'm going to take responsibility and release old, and I'm going to call upon God to help me co-create something new. And if you're not seeing the old go away, you might not be doing the proper thing. You might not be working progressively. You could say, I want to get rid of my stuff. I'm finally going to go to a counselor, which is a good move. Sponsorship, counselor. So you go and do it. And yet some of us will create a counselor that just, and they sit behind a tablet and just talk. Well, oh, look, our time is up. We'll see you next week. Ka-ching. And then you come back and you talk, about stuff again. So how was your week? Really? Have you gone grocery shopping? Oh, the holidays. Aren't those stressful? Get somebody that's going to say, why? Where did that come from? What does the holidays bring up for you? Where did that happen before? Stuff that people don't want to talk about. You don't go to parties and do tracking. Hey, happy birthday. I've been working on some really deep stuff lately. That's not usually what comes up. You don't talk too much at gatherings about death, tracking, or colonics, okay? Because that's yucky stuff that people don't want to talk about. I mean, maybe in Sedona, Yeah, I did my colon therapy today. You should have seen. Wow. I just feel so clean. Did coffee enema afterwards. Maxwell House has a whole new meaning to me. Anyway, so I don't know. So think about that. Like, get it out. Find, create progressive means to work on it. Progressive. Have a counselor that takes you somewhere. They should not be buddies that you chat with. You can have those for free. Just find someone that they take and tell them that. When you go to find a counselor, say, I'm looking for progressive counseling. If they don't know what that means, it's okay if you're the one who educates them. I want to go somewhere. I don't want to be here for 6 months and still not have talked about my worst fears, my angers. And if they say, oh, I'm a little more passive and and it could take us years to get to that, say thank you, no problem. Bye-bye. Get somebody progressive. Don't settle, especially when it comes to your psychological health. Go somewhere, okay? But if you're not getting the old out well enough, there are things you can do. But what if you are doing all the internal work on healing the past and things still aren't working? Now you need to address what's not working on the refilling. If your refilling simply is a couple deep breaths after every deep cathartic process, that's all you did is you filled up with oxygen. Oxygen isn't your creator. Fill up with God. Well, I filled up with happy thoughts. That's better than nothing. Go better than happy thoughts. Go somewhere else. Not only do I want progressive healing of the past, I want progressive refilling for my life in the present and future. Go all the way, man. Go to God. Don't say, I'm going to fill up with my deceased mother. She guides me. She's close to me. Psychics have said they see her in my aura. That's great, but she's just your dead mother. There are beings that know more, right? There's God, at least angels. Like, call in something profound and wow, really? Yes, because I am deserving. So if the filling up isn't really taking you all the way, like to profound things, call on something better, just like you'd call on something better in releasing the past. Go to some better place. But if you're still not feeling, because to me, it's like we're a pond. Now, when I had a retreat, we created a large pond, and then they put in a rubber layment at the bottom, and then you fill it up. Now, if the water level's here at the top, where the rubber ends, here on the side, the shore of the pond, and the water drops to here, guess what? You have a what? A leak. So when you and I fill up and we go, and get out anger, and then, Mani Padme, we fill up with the presence of God, and yet a few minutes later, we're already depressed again. You might have a leak. Now, what I learned about leaks, because I think consciously about everything. So I'm looking at this pond that I had, and I'm going, what does this mean? It's just like us. And the water will drop, not just to the first leak, the deepest leak. So if you go and patch one leak and it still drops, there must be another leak. Leaks are unhealed wounds. Leaks are promises you've made that you didn't keep. See, picture this. Here I am, Michael, and I've got all this beautiful energy field. Wow. It's like just this loving amperage, man, and voltage and energy and grid systems, and wow. Well, here's what happens. Excessive use of drugs can start puncturing your aura. Those are leaks. And rage can puncture your aura. Leaks. Promises I've made, or those things that we say to other people. Let's do lunch. Oh, absolutely. I'm going to call you next week. And you don't. You've made a commitment, and it's called a leak. You have thrown out a line to somebody, see you next week, and they have the other end. And everybody walks around, especially in Sedona, talking about cord cutting and, we got to get people out of my energy field and they took my power. You threw them a line. They just took it. Now I've got to go do cord cutting against those bad people. Why don't you also stop making promises you won't keep? I promised you I would marry you till death do us part. I left after the first sneeze. There was no death. There wasn't even barely sickness. Gone. Boom, I traded you in. That's a commitment I didn't keep. Past life vows. I promise Oh, church, I promise never to deal with dirty money. I'm going to give it all to you, which makes no sense to me. But dirty money, it's wicked, it's evil. And for some reason, you want it. But it's evil. Never will I even touch coins, money. I shall never be prosperous and never get any action. I'm vowing to this. And then you wonder, 5 lifetimes later, you're like neurotic when it comes to being sexual with somebody. You got this weird twitch that goes on when somebody's coming on to you. And you're broke. You made vows. Especially if you're making money that way and you can't get any money, it's really a double whammy, right? So you can't judge me. I'm channeling this, okay? So, guys, you made vows, and I make fun of it, but do you know how serious that is in your soul? I promised God no money, no sensuality. It's evil. And now you wonder why these things are happening. So what you're being asked to do here and with other people's talking books and all that is to say no more to those old vows. Well, that's easy to say. But what you can do is basically look at the vows and you find your way to release them. You find your way. Sometimes with tears, I release vows. Sometimes I just say, Your Honor, I plead insanity. I must have been insane when I judged bodies and said, I never want to be a physical being. That was in my insanity. I was mistaken. When you say I was mistaken, you're more easily giving up old vows than if you try to act like you were righteous in doing it and then try to give it up. Because then you're creating conflict. Just own it. I was mistaken to think till death do us part. Beloved ex, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Goodbye. Do your own form of cord cutting. When you do cord cutting, you're not cutting away evil, wicked people, although sometimes their behaviors are like that. You're cutting also your investment in it. So you patch the leaks. It's not just what people have done to you that have created leaks. It's also what you've done to others. But believe it or not, it's things you said you would do and didn't do. Stop saying it. Tell your friend, you know, honey, I keep saying we're going to get together and do lunch, but I just know my schedule, it's just not there, and I apologize. I won't ask you again until I'm actually ready to do it. Done. Oh, okay, cool. And here's what happens. The water drops to the lowest leak. You patched a leak. Guess what happens? What's going to happen to the water? It rises. You patch another leak. What does the water do? What if this is your energy system? What's happening inside of you? You see what's happening? Your energy level is rising. You have more chi. You have more vitality, less depression, because you're filling up. And you're not just filling up with positive thinking. I would recommend you fill up even with the presence of God. It's beautiful. It's a great analogy. Filling up, filling up, filling up. But it also means prosperity is rising. My healing involves the rise in all crucial areas of life. You might still have some minor leak somewhere that won't show immediately because overall everything's filling up. It looks good. The pond's good. I used to have to fill it every day or two. Now it seems like it's only every month. That's not a bad piece of progress. But you might say, you know what? After doing all this work, I still notice there's some minor leaks. That's why I do this co-creating class every year. Even before I did it publicly, I was always doing it every year. Because you'll always find new pieces and new things and fine-tune, filling up. People say to me, you know, how is it you maintain such like vitality and such energy day to day, let alone when you're speaking? You know, it's not a manic depressive kind of an energy. It's generally there. Well, how and why? Because I patch leaks. You know, if there's something in my life, even if it's, I've written a book, let's say I'm 3/4 the way done. And then I get distracted with things and a month goes by and another month and another month and another month. 3 years, 4.5 years. You know what I'm going to do? Throw it away. Oh no, because I was just about to get to it. Really? Let's write this down. That by the end of today, I'm going to start finishing. I'm going to open the document on my screen so that when I go to my computer, I see it. And if I don't start typing new words by the end of today, I'm vowing to myself, throw it away. Now, if I don't, I created what? Another leak because I vowed to throw it away. Only do what you're serious to do. Watch your agreements with the universe. Be true to your word. Well, then I'm not going to say that I'm going to throw it away. Oh, no, just stay with the leaks you already had. When you started writing it and you didn't, it's a leak already. The vow to let it go if you're not going to do it, sure, you can sink or swim. It could really destroy you if you don't keep to that. So keep to it. But if you don't, believe it or not, patching leaks is not all about doing. Patching leaks is also owning that you're not going to do it and letting it go. Oh, no, but I don't want to let it go. That feels like failure. Oh, then keep it half alive, because that's really a good idea. Here's what happens. When you create something energetically, like you have an idea to write a book or write a poem or I'm going to get a different job. When you have these ideas, they need fed because they're energy, they're like children, energetic children, and they need fed. If you want to pretend that you didn't give birth to them, they will sap into your energy field and start sucking energy from you. Leaks. That book you didn't write is draining you. What you need to do is say, I'm not going to write it. The energy stops going into the creatures that became creatures instead of creations. They became creatures. Creatures are things you don't own properly. They're things that you're not giving true life to. So they become energy sappers. And that's what some of that psychic vampirism is about. We think it's just other people. You have more of your own creation sucking your energy than you do other people. So they're needing life. They're going, but you gave us birth and you're not feeding us, so we have to draw it from you in a negative way. Pause. Okay, I'm going to own this. You know, in the example I've used in my life, you have to say, I'm going to own this. And I had these, people had filmed and videotaped lectures of mine. I did like 4-day, 5-day lectures, and people would say, "Could we come and film here?" Sure. They would film it, and it would be all about the history of the world, Atlantis, Lemuria, really amazing, beautiful stuff. And then they'd give me a copy of the tapes, and I'm thinking, that's great. I got those tapes. I'm going to convert those to CDs when CDs started coming out. I'm going to convert those. And this box of videos sat in my office year after year, because I'm going to do that. Because if I throw it away, guys, come on. In my case, I'm different. My story is unique to yours because my stuff's important. These videos, this stuff is going to help the world. Come on. And year after year, it sat there like anybody else's garbage. And one day I had one of these, the end of the year things. I had some friends come over and visit for a few years, New Year's, and we, and I'm like, oh man. And one year I said, get all those videos. Let's throw them in the dumpster. My students were like, get behind me, Satan. We will not throw these away. These are invaluable. I'm like, no, we got, and they actually talked me out of it, which is because I partly didn't want to do it. And then I said, if this isn't done by this time next year, no arguments. They're going, and that's what happened. Another year went by, and we took boxes of dozens and dozens of hours of incredible information shared in the dumpster. I've never really thought about it, never regretted it. When you let go of things that are sapping energy, you will feel vitalized more than you will feel drained. If you feel drained, it's because you had attachments to it and you went in the dumpster with it. See, part of you died with it. You're not supposed to die with your creations. Cut them loose. It's sinking. Cut it loose. And you realize, well, wow, I can breathe. It was pulling you underwater. You cut the line and, oh, look at that. You start usually recognizing this feels pretty good. And as I'm drawing towards a close, please keep this in mind in your life. It's time for new beginnings. If the new beginnings aren't coming in easily, see if there's any gardening you have to do, soil work. If you've done that and it's still not happening, I would go to what you're rebuilding with, you're refilling. Do you have leaks? Are you not refilling with a high enough new energy, or do you have leaks? If you've got leaks, do work on the leaks. You should start seeing a change. It can only be one of these two things or both. I'm either not cleaning out of the past well enough, I'm not rebuilding well enough the future, or a bit of both. Those are the only reasons that our life might not be kicking into a new level. It's not like there's some other reason that we don't know about. Nothing can be disempowering to us like that. We do know all that we need to know to change our lives. It's one of these things. Take an inventory. Take time. Look inside. Your leaks are going to be unfulfilled dreams, things you wish. And remember the word wish. It's not an evil word, but in my metaphor, my example here, a master chooses. They don't wish. You do or you don't do. That's mastery. Humans, on the other hand, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. But you did. Yeah, but I wish I hadn't. But you did. I know, but I wish I hadn't. How is that helping anything? And I know that part of us wishes we hadn't, but see it, cry it, do what you need to do so that you don't have energy going to, I wish I hadn't. And you'll know when you changed a wish of regret of the past, when you start to see what you learned from the experience. Instead of focusing on the regret, but I did get such and such out of that. That's when you see an organic shift on the scales to where power is going into, I learned something versus I simply wish, which is energy leaks. So don't wish, and even the present. I wish I had a different job. What's that doing to you? You're disempowered. Every day you go to work, you're leaking more energy. I know, and it's terrible. I wish I didn't have this job. Careful what you wish for. Because jobless might be worse than the job you have. You don't like it? Here's what you can do. Give thanks that you have it, not stay forever. Give thanks that you have it. I'm really grateful that I'm here, that I'm getting income to pay my bills. And I'm going to choose a different job now. Go there. Go to that new place. Will it. Choose it. Rather than spending time wishing you didn't have the one you have. Relationships, oh, I wish I wasn't in this relationship. I wish I had a different partner. I wish all energy leaks. Stop and just choose it. Be careful. The words you speak are doing something. Thoughts become words, words become prayers, and you're always praying. And when you're saying, I wish I didn't have this job, it's a very sad prayer because horrible things could happen. You could get injured at work. You could get injured so you can't go to work. You could lose your job. And then you're going to go, I can't believe it. They fired me. Michael, I need a session. They fired me. Wait, is this the place 6 months ago you told me I wish I didn't have this job? Yeah, but no, don't be but here. No. Come on. See, you didn't want it. It's so humorous to me. People getting what they pray for and then complain to God. Why did you do this to me, God? God's like, what? I have nothing to do with that. So take time, patch leaks, and watch. And when you see it filling up, I would patch leaks and give thanks in advance because it's going to make a difference. But if you didn't give thanks in advance, at least give thanks when you start to see the shift. I'm starting to feel like I want to live again. Or I'm starting to feel more alive. Nice, give thanks. And when you hedge and say, well, I don't want to give thanks because this might not happen fully. Give thanks for every bit of change so more can come. Make sense? Take a few centering breaths, please. Centering, relaxing. Take a half a minute just to tune into whatever you heard that made sense. Let it be yours. Breathe it in, let it be yours. Relax all muscles, all thoughts, all emotions, and as usual, I say, when you inhale, hear the words, I am. When you exhale, hear either the word relaxed or at peace. I am at peace. peace on the exhale. It's a nice, like self-hypnosis to let the tide come in and wash out the old and leave you as a more quieted being. Become vividly aware of being centered and quiet. Just hypothetically, casually ask, if there's any area of my life that's challenged, what area seems the most challenged? What area have I done the most work on, but it's still stuck? And just lightly, we just ask ourselves, if there's anything in me that just hypothetically would be afraid of this thing finally getting over the hump and healing, if this totally shifted, just hypothetically, what would be my greatest fear? Even if it's an ailment that would be gone in a snap, make something up, just let it come to you. What would be my greatest fear if this were gone? If I didn't have this to complain about, just what would be the biggest setback or drawback on that? Which for some of us seems ludicrous. There wouldn't be, but just try it. Sometimes letting go of an illness means we don't get Social Security for it, disability. Sometimes if I let go of an illness, I don't get certain sympathy or kindness from people. That means there's an agenda, there's an attachment. And so, if there is any possible fear or hesitation to let this go, what is the worst case scenario if you let it go anyway? Go ahead and take a half a minute to explore what kinds of things. Oh, they would take away my disability insurance. Fine, and then what? Go ahead and look at the fears. It's better than sweeping them under the rug. I wouldn't get certain attention or sympathy. Fine, and then what? What does that mean? People might be less kind to me, sympathetic. And then what? You'd have to create new friends? It sounds good to me. Don't let it intimidate. Be a master, face it, and say, and then what? So what? Then what? What's the worst case scenario? Face it. It's okay. And you're not bad or wrong for thinking this way. To err is human. To forgive, to release, to move on is divine. And if I lost my Social Security, I would replace it with something that's interdependent, something great, because I'm going to co-create with God. And if God is with me, nothing could be against me. So really, I'm afraid of trying. I'm afraid of coming out. I'm afraid of finding the interdependent me. So I'm still relying on that person or that group or that check or whatever. I'm just afraid. And that fear is worshiping a false idol called fear. It has no power over me. Look at it. Be still, tell it. Be still. I hear you. Now, be still and know I'm not you. Be still and know I am God. Now move aside. Picture it parting ways. And you walk through, Moses leading the Israelites through the sea that parts. And you step through to the other side. Holy, holy, holy. On the other side is the book I wanted to write, are the better relationships, is the greater health, whatever it might be. So take a moment to imagine. First, what is the new feeling if you were to get past that negative you were holding on to? What would you want and desire and feel and choose on the other side of the sea that parted? What's the key word or two? Freedom, peace, joy, abundance, dance, twirling, laughter. What are the word or two? What would they be on the other side? Breathe it in a couple times. Become it. I am peace. I am confidence. I am joy. I am. And then, just a half a minute visualizing. If you are that new word, rather than the misery, if you're the new word, what does that look like in your life? What does the new word look like? Picture for half a minute you being free, you being happy, you being healthy. Picture it. See yourself just like, oh my God, just radiating light, just abundant energy, happiness, friendships, just playful, sensual, prosperous, all of it. I got it. The promised land. Soak that in. Enjoy it to its fullest. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. I know this to be true. I've gardened and made more room. I'm filling up with God as a guide, and I'm seeing my new life. All that's left now is to give thanks. For the next half a minute or less, in your own way, really soak this in, really from your heart, sincerely give thanks that this is already starting, and then gradually stretch out. Well done. Just gradually acclimate to the room again. Hopefully you had some insights that you might have not been quite so aware of, some insights. And it takes courage, but also some of these things are going to surprise you when you look at what's really behind something. Sometimes you'll hear like a program, undeserving, unlovable, flawed. You could hear the words flawed child and go, wait a minute, what? And realize I took that on as a 5-year-old. It happens. You could be the leader of a country and still you've got the same stuff as everybody else. We have hurts individually and collectively. Even when I clear all my personal wounds, there's a collective level of all of it. I don't just have loneliness, we have loneliness. I don't just have sadness or abandonment or whatever, we have. So I can clear mine, but there's still plenty to still deal with. My job is to heal what comes into my airspace. Okay? Thank you. Please stand for our closing prayer. Those of you watching online, you sometimes ask, hey, did you guys listen to a song today? What song was it? Shambhala. Shambhala by Three Dog Night. Yeah, I hesitated because I was going to play Beginnings by Chicago. Ooh. I wish I had. No, Shambhala was great to bridge into today, and I can see why. But Beginnings, a great song. When I'm with you, right? When I'm with you. You know, it doesn't matter where we are. All that we're doing, you know, this is all that matters. And that's just a great, great affirmation song. We've played it now and then in our services. It's kind of cool because a couple of the guys from the band Chicago live in Sedona or have a house in Sedona. And some of you went to them and said, we play your song in our church at our spiritual center as one. And they're like, what? You know? And then some of you even told Earth, Wind, and Fire that they're our patron saints. And I don't know if anybody caught on to this. The poster of Earth, Wind, and Fire in the foyer, where is it? Above the water fountain. Why? Because Earth, Wind, and Fire doesn't have water. So we put them over the water fountain so that we have all four elements. Yay! We're so weird, man. Just never ends. The depth of our strangeness. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. See you soon. You're welcome. Thank you. You too. Happy New Year to you all. Join us for the workshop if you can.